My name's Jeff Morgan. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and this is November the 11th, so I want to say wish Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans that are out there, people that have served your country in the armed forces, whether it be Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard, some other type of service. Just thank you for the things that you've done. When you took the oath to serve your country, you took an oath to defend your country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And in return, you would think that our country should actually be honoring you and respecting you. And many people on today will tell you thank you for your service. There's veterans discounts out there, and of course any veteran is appreciative of all of these things. But there's something that's a deeper issue that I want to address very quickly here, and that's the way that the country has turned their backs on veterans when it comes down to family court issues. And there's two people that I want to particularly focus upon this Veterans Day that are veterans that have been completely abused, mistreated, all sorts of things by our family courts, by family court judges. And for the most part, people just say, well, it's too bad that you've had to go through that. They do not realize the injustice. And I'm going to say that in addition to that, if you're a Republican legislator, conservative, you are now paying the price of this. And I'm going to get into that in just a moment. So the first person I want to talk about is Kash Jackson. Kash Jackson was a 20-year veteran of the Navy. He served his country honorably. He got an honorable discharge. He did have to leave a little bit early, I believe, because of family court issues. Once again, family court is involved in everything. Currently, he's incarcerated. He's in jail right now up in Illinois. And there are some things that have gone on, some reasons for that. But one of the things that people don't talk about with Kash is the abuse that he suffered at the hands of the family court. You know, it's always amazing how somebody can poke you in the eye, hit you in the head, whatever you want, and the moment you try to respond to defend yourself, all of a sudden you become the aggressor, you become the victimizer instead of the victim. And I don't know all about Kash's situation, but I went out yesterday to Minden in Louisiana and talked with Kash's mom, Paula Jackson. Two reasons. Number one, Paula has been sick. She has advanced stage 3 pancreatic cancer. I thought it was stage 4, but it was advanced stage 3. And we have a friend, Ted Bush, who recently had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, who passed on just suddenly. We thought everything was going well, and I did not get to see him. I wanted to talk with him a little bit further, and then the next thing I knew, he was gone. And I thought, when I saw the diagnosis and what appeared to be the prognosis for Kash's mom, I wanted to get out to see her. I'm only 4 hours away from there, so I drove there yesterday, talked with her, interviewed her, and then drove back last night. And I want to thank Paula for taking the time to share her heart, to talk about some of the things that Kash has gone through, because there's been a lot of things with regard to Kash, that there's been a lot of misrepresentation. There's been people that have maligned him, people that have said, you know, he's a saint. He's not a saint either, but he's a good man, and he never deserved what happened to him in these family courts. So I have that interview coming up with Paula Jackson. I've divided it into 14 different parts. I've tried to make it so it's digestible, but again, I just want to say that on Veterans Day, remember our veterans. They go through the family courts, and you say, you know, you love your veterans, thank you so much for your service. Please do not turn your back on them with the abuse that they suffer in family courts. Veterans who have their military service used against them. And this is men and women. I've known both, that because somehow they were serving overseas, they were considered an absentee parent. When they were sent to a place by our government to go serve, to protect our country, or to defend the ideals of our country, and they come back and they're treated like garbage. So the first person I'm going to talk about, once again, is Kash Jackson, and the interview with his mom. Many people know her as Mama Jackson. And Paul, I just want to thank you so much for your time yesterday, and for being as open as you were and honest about all of these different things that you've experienced and that you've seen Kash experience, how it's broken your heart to see not just the country, but let's be honest, politicians, churches, legislators, whatever you want to call them, many people abandoning our veterans at the time when they are looking for help, and we abandon them and then we trash them. But there's a second person I also want to talk about as well, and that is Sean Parnell. And I think Sean Parnell has a little bit and I think with Sean Parnell, the consequences of what happens in family courts will become clearer as I discuss it and as we go through those things. So Megyn Kelly actually interviewed Sean Parnell, and I saw the interview, and I broke that interview up as well into 8 different parts. So I don't get monetized on my YouTube channel. If you do want to give somebody credit, give Megan Kelly the credit. Go to her channel, look at the whole video down there. But I split it up once again so that people could actually see in smaller segments what happens on our family courts. Sean Parnell is an outstanding man. When he was growing up, he was bullied, and people did not stand up for him when he was being bullied. So he said in his heart that when I grow up, I am never going to abandon people like I have been abandoned. I'm never going to let people get bullied. So in response, Sean also joined the military to help defend people that could be bullied by other people. Sean Parnell, outstanding individual. He was running for the Senate in Pennsylvania. And here's where I think if you're a Republican, you need to pay attention to this, because the entire balance of our Senate, the power of our Senate right now, has been changed because of family courts. Sean Parnell was running for Senate against John Fetterman in Pennsylvania. And Sean Parnell was winning, taking things away. And you know what happened to him? He had to step out because of false accusations, a false protective order, frivolous charges against him in family court. He had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. And as I understand it, the judge would have given his ex-wife custody of the kids had he become a senator, because he would not have been around enough for them. So what did he do as a father? He said, number one, my kids are the most important thing to me. He dropped out of the race. Sean was an outstanding candidate. He was replaced by Dr. Oz. Now, Dr. Oz he's not a terrible candidate, but he wasn't a great candidate. I didn't really follow him that much, but many people were like, you know, they were not enthusiastic about him, not like they were with Sean Parnell. When Sean was running, he was going to take the Senate. We would have power right now in the United States Senate if it weren't for this family court. And Republicans, you need to take note of this, because you've always just passed off, well, we can't do anything about it. Well, you know, we've got to do this, whatever. Right now, the entire power balance and structure in our country, in our U.S. Senate, has been tipped because of family courts. Oh, well, now we're going to put all of our stock, we've got to be behind Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker should be able to win against Reverend Warnock. Much better candidate. But we should not be in this position once again that we have to sweat it out to the end. We should have had Pennsylvania as a solid red Republican conservative senator that would have changed the entire balance of our Senate. But because of family court issues, he dropped out because he wanted to be with his children. And this is what a judge did. And once again, I've talked about this many times, many people have talked about this, and usually our legislators are like, well, we're kind of behind you, but then they whiff. They get up there, they have a backbone that kind of like melts in the sun. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Our highest levels of leadership in our government here in Texas, they don't care about this. They do not really care about what's happening in our courts. But let me tell you right now, in Texas, we are Republican in statewide areas, but we're losing our state. We are barely winning some races that we should be winning with great margins. And part of the reason is because of what's happening in our family courts. When you remove one parent from a child's life, be it a father or a mother, you more than likely will create a chance of this child becoming a Democrat. When you have single parent households, whether it's a father or a mother, more than likely, not always, that person is going to be a Democrat. Recently, in this past election that we had, there were some surveys out about children between the ages of 18 and 24. How did they vote? And I've heard anywhere from 28% to 35% and even more voted Democrat. Why was that? Because these children, these people that are single parents or just come from broken families, they need to have some type of a support structure. They look to the government instead of looking to God, to the church, to a good family foundation. And you Republicans who are not aggressively advancing this agenda, you are part of the problem right now. We know the Democrats want the destruction of the family. The destruction of the family leads to the destruction of society. The destruction of society leads to a better condition to implement socialism, communism. This is what Vladimir Lenin said back in the 1917, 1918. Destroy the family, destroy society. And yet here in the state of Texas, the supposed red state of Texas, we permit unilateral no-fault divorce, the automatic destruction of the family based on one person's allegation. For any reason, for no reason, they can make up a reason, and you have kids that are being broken and traumatized. One man, I think it was Frederick Douglass, said this: "It is better to build strong children than to repair broken men. And it's so much easier to do that. It's better and it's easier. And the other thing that's taking place is this. When you are not standing up and are against the injustices that take place on a daily basis in our family courts, you are creating rapists. You are creating criminals. You are creating gangbangers. You are creating people who will drop out of school, people who will not go to college, people who will live in poverty. The statistics and the science and the research are clear on this. Single parent households or households that have never been formed, for children, this is a disaster. Not in every single case, I understand that. But statistically speaking, you are creating the problems that you say you want to be against, and yet you are too wishy-washy and afraid to do anything. So yes, I am a little bit bugged about our Republicans who are not addressing the issue of the family. It is a very crucial issue. This upcoming session, we do have a majority in the House. We do have a majority in the Senate. Now I will say this, if our Speaker of the House appoints any Democratic chairpersons, I want to know why. We've recently heard that our Speaker, the current Speaker, has been the most conservative Speaker of the House, of any Speaker that we can remember. I don't believe it right now. And maybe he is, I don't know. But he's gonna have to prove it to me and quit giving Democrats chairs of these committees, especially the Juvenile Justice and Family Issues Committee. You have to remember, Democrats prosper, their party increases when we have broken families. And if you have divorce attorneys, such as Victoria Niave, such as Ana Maria Ramos, such as David Cook, who's a Republican, by the way, people that deal with divorce. They may not be divorce attorneys exclusively, but people who either own law firms or practice family law or are just divorce attorneys. When you have these people that are in these positions of power saying, well, we need to have these people in there for some reason or another, that violates our Texas Constitution, Article 3, Section 22. These people should be disclosing the fact that they are divorce attorneys, that they either deal with divorce or they have a law firm that works in divorce. And if they pass laws that benefit them privately in their personal lives, that is a direct conflict of interest. It's also called corruption. And these people should be recused from voting on these issues. And these people should not be involved in the Juvenile Justice and Family Issues Committee. And by far, they should not be appointed chairpeople of this type of a committee. So I want to see the Republicans actually lead. You know, here's the problem with the difference between Republicans and Democrats. Republicans, we're supposed to be the party of law and order. We respect the police. We do this. We're not going to be troublemakers. Democrats will go in, they're revolutionaries. Most of the Democrats, not all, but many Democrats right now are almost more communist or socialist. They will use any means possible to get an agenda passed. And some people say, well, we've got to just make a better argument. You do not understand the dynamics with these Democrats. Many of these Democrats, they don't care what the arguments are, they just want power. And I live in Dallas, so maybe I am colored by what I saw in Dallas. But in Dallas, Texas, about 64% of the people here voted for Beto for governor. The state rejected Beto, but the city of Dallas voted for Beto by about 64%. Same thing with the lieutenant governor. Same thing with the attorney general. Down the line on statewide positions, the Democratic Party votes for power. You cannot convince these people. They're revolutionaries. They're communists in a sense. You cannot convince them with arguments. Oh, they're going to say, oh, yes, we'll take this under advisement and everything else. And shame on you Republicans if you cave to these people. We actually have to start exercising the politics of power and coercion and making the other side obey. Go to the Democratic website in Dallas. You know what they have down there is if you go through it enough, the Democrats are suing all over the place, trying to get their agenda. And Republicans think, well, we just need to make a better argument. I've digressed off the issue of the veterans and family courts, but I'm just telling you this. Republicans, you need to start actually acting like you are the party of faith, family, and freedom that you claim to be. And I don't care what the Democrats say, you need to start coercing them and do what's right. Quit bowing down to these people. Some of them are godless communists. That's the reality. And I could name some names. Some of them are wonderful, but others are not. And Republicans, you need to get a backbone. And on Veterans Day in particular, Anybody, I don't care if you're Democrat, I don't care if you're Republican, I don't care if you're independent, I don't care what you are. You want to honor our veterans, you need to start watching what's going on in the family courts, these injustices that are being committed against our veterans. Kash Jackson is one such person. 20 years, honorably discharged naval veteran, and he's been being treated like a criminal. He's been made to suffer in all sorts of ways, been kept from his kids by a Judge Joseph Salvi out of Illinois, for reasons that nobody can really explain, except that Judge Joseph Salvi has a personal vendetta against Kash Jackson. Once again, the church abandoned Kash. The church should have been sticking with him and his family and trying to work things out. The church abandoned. Politics abandoned. Judges abandoned. The courts have abandoned. And then once again, you also have Sean Parnell, outstanding Senate candidate from Pennsylvania. Had it not been for family court issues, had it not been for false protective orders, had it not been for lying, which regularly takes place in our family courts, we would have had a different composition within the United States Senate. The entire power of balance has been shifted in America because of family courts. And this happened once again to a veteran, a combat veteran, an Army Ranger, Sean Parnell. So for veterans, there's many of us who stand with you. We go to courts, we talk up things about on your behalf. But if you are an elected official, we're sick and tired of the lip service. We need you into our family courts. If you are an elected official, I would say you should be going into family courts at least once a quarter to see the atrocities that take place. I think you should be going in there and seeing what's happening to not just the veterans, but to the people that live in your state. And as if you're a Republican, you remember, if you do not start to fix these family courts, you're creating Democrats by the day. So anyway, veterans, once again, I want to thank you for your service. It was an honor for me to be able to serve. It changed my life in a number of ways. And, you know, it gave me a much greater appreciation for my country, for people who also served. And so that's basically it right now. Happy Veterans Day. And once again, defend our veterans. Don't let them be raped and pillaged and traumatized and have PTSD inflicted upon them by our courts. Again, this is not a man's issue, not a woman's issue. It is a veteran's issue, but it's also an issue that affects almost every single person, either directly or indirectly. Every single person in the state of Texas. We've got to fix this system right now. I hope you enjoy the presentations with both Mama Jackson and then also the interview that I was able to obtain from Megyn Kelly. Thank you very much.